Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Unstable Podcast with me, Ricky Belshaw, and I am joined today with the local comedy legend that is Roger Swift.
Hello everyone.
Can we edit in some applause there, please? Because it is absolutely worth it. How you doing, Swifty? You all right, mate?
I'm okay, mate. I'm all good.
Good man, good man. Why don't you introduce yourself to my very few viewers? It's going well.
Yeah.
It's going well.
Yeah.
Go on, introduce yourself, mate.
Yeah. Hello everyone. My name's Roger Swift. I am local. I'm from Telford, same as Ricky here, down the road, and I am a alternative comedian and local comedy promoter, and I've been doing it for about 12, 13 years.
Yeah, you were actually the first person I got in touch with when I wanted to get into comedy. Did you know that? You were the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
I did actually, yeah.
You sent me an email back that made no sense to me at the time because it was just about the COVID time when it.
Yeah.
I've probably still got the email. It said something like you said something like comedy is a relic of the past.
Yeah.
And I was like, I couldn't work out because I didn't know you at the time. I couldn't work out if it was a joke or I just didn't know what the crack was.
I think at the time I was going into this massive state of depression going, this is never going to end. And I think, so I think I was just in the, I don't think I was ever going to come back kind of thing.
What you're telling me is I caught you at near suicidal.
Yes, I was at such a low at that moment in time. Yeah.
Right, well, I'm sorry to hear that, Roger. I didn't know. So how long have you been going, mate?
As a comedian, I started in 2009, so
2009?
15 years.
Okay, excellent, cool. And you are, so obviously I know what you sort of mean by alternative and prop, but tell them what you sort of mean by that. What do you sort of do, mate? You can I'll finish your roo first.
Sorry, yep.
It's all right, it's all right.
I am a prop comedian. I don't do observational comedy in the traditional sense. Yeah. I'm a gag merchant. It's just gag very fast and in your face. And it's visual because I use props, homemade props and toys and pictures.
Yeah. So I was going to tell one of you, I was going to explain one of your things, but I don't want to ruin it.
You can if you want.
I was going to explain the
one. I won't do the whole of them.
I was going to explain the coppers one just to give them an idea.
Right, yeah, I can explain that one if you like.
So
which
explain the coppers just to give them an idea of what
give an
Roger
idea
does.
It's quite a simple one. It's the prop is just a piece of wood with loads of 1 and 2p stuck on it. And the joke is, no, hold it behind my head. Have I got coppers behind me? And then look around. So hence 2 meanings to coppers. Haha. So
that's the sort of, that's what Roger does.
It's funnier in context.
Yeah, no, it is actually a funny joke. Yeah. And I've said this to you before, because with your comedy, people either love it.
Oh, yes.
They either absolutely love it or they hate it.
Yep.
You never get a middle ground with
Or
Rog.
little middle ground. It's not
there's very few people go, yeah, that was all right with Rog. They either think that was amazing or what the fuck have I just watched?
Yes. Yeah.
And I love watching a room with you. And this is going to sound horrible, Rog.
Yeah.
And I don't mean this nastily, but I prefer watching you personally for my own enjoyment when they don't go for you. Yeah. Because I love that semi-breakdown you have on stage where you launched upon, well, that's 3 hours of my life I'm never getting back. And it makes me laugh so much. It really does. I love it.
I used to hate that, but I've sort of gone to like it now.
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
As weird as it is, if I'm up there absolutely just getting nothing, I kind of just embrace it now and just think, oh, you're all dumb.
Well, I mean, this is like me telling you, I'm not teaching you how to suck eggs. Like you've been going far longer than me, and you're far more experienced. But
but not very good.
Well, no, I think you are good. I honestly think that if you lent into that as your act, and whether it's going good or bad, do that. Like almost make it look like you're having a breakdown on stage. I really do think that'd elevate your. I really do. I think if you made that as part of your everyday set, I think it'd really work.
It doesn't need it if it's smashing.
No, but if it's smashing, it just adds the extra. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you turn into like, if it's almost like a character having a breakdown, I think that'd be so funny.
A lot of people have said that.
Have they?
Yeah, you're not the only one who said that.
Have you tried? Have you thought of trying it?
I need to do it more because I mean, that's the kind of thing I need to work on. I mean, I've got kind of better at it now if they're not going with me and just going into that mental breakdown. Yeah. But it's semi-real because sometimes I really am having a breakdown. Yeah. It's like, doesn't anyone get this at all? Like anyone in the room understand this on an ironic level? Yeah, you're just looking at the gags at face value and going, these are terrible gags. And like, you've got no irony on yours at all.
I've been there when you have actually had that breakdown, mate. Do you remember was it the tennis club?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that I was like, oh God, no, this is not a good day for Rog. No,
that was one of them. They're just the war. I call it the war when that happens, and it's
sorry,
happens,
the war or the wall.
The wall, W-A-L-L, which is and there's no other way of putting it. It's like sometimes you'll get like a tipping point when you start off, where a few of them will come with you, and then it starts to spread, and then you'll get a tipping point. Right, we get what he's doing now. Right, we're on board with it, but sometimes you just get that slap, and then they'll just get what I call the wall. They'll just sort of pull back and go, "No, this is rubbish."
Yeah,
all of you, the hive mind, of the just go, "No, not for us. This is terrible."
No, I get
and
it.
then you can't pull back from that. And that was one such night where that happened. It came up very quick, and that was. There was just no comeback.
It was hard to watch. But what I love is when, because obviously you're on stage and I'm either comparing or I'm another act on the night and I'm watching, and I love it when I see it. I look, because I never watch your set. I watch the audience.
Yeah, everyone says that. And the other comedians all say that.
Because we've seen it. Obviously, the first couple of times, of course, I watched it. Yeah. But after that, I watched the audience, and I love it when I see a couple. Yeah. I see a man and a woman. And you know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Oh, I love it. I've had this so much.
One of them, generally speaking, the bloke, his howling is absolutely doubled over, howling, cannot get enough of it. And then the partner is the total opposite, and is almost
split couples up over this. Because it's that polarizing.
It's just amazing. Like she's not annoyed at you. Yeah, she is annoyed at him.
She's like, "What is your problem? Why are you laughing at this pathetic idiot who thinks it's funny?" And it's like,
it's so good. It is. I love watching your set for that alone.
Yeah, I can eyeball when I'm up there doing it. I almost like want to stop and watch myself that happen, because I can see I'm breaking this couple up. I've even had it, because when I said we get onto where we go to the Fringe and I do an hour of it. I do.
There's an hour of this.
I've got an hour long show. It's just that for an hour. Where I've had this where a couple will come in, and again it's always, I can't kind of say it because it's always the man. Of the who he'll sit there and howl after, and the 3 minutes, and then this year one woman just walked out. I was like, she just shook her head and was like, no,
just left a fella in there.
And then as I came out at the end, he put a 20 pence in my bucket, and I heard as I'm standing with my bucket at the end, he put 20 quid in it. He bought a ticket. He gave me another 20 quid, and he went to say, "All right," she said, "I told you I don't like puns. It was terrible. I couldn't watch that. It's cringe." I heard her say it.
Oh mate, that's so good. Have you thought about sort of recording more of your sets, but having two cameras, so recording one of you and then putting one on the audience, but the one in the audience having it quite high res, so that when you edited it, you could show what you're doing and literally zoom in and show that reaction?
Yeah, I need to do that.
I think
I should do that more.
That'd really fly on TikTok.
Yeah,
you know?
Just the polarization. Now you said it, it's like, that is actually such a good idea. Thanks for that.
You can have that.
That's a good idea.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, that is a really good idea.
That's a great idea,
because I could get it so much that I film it all the time, but it's like on two cameras.
I've only just thought of that, but
I've got so much stuff to set up. I had to do that as well.
But if you had if it was like super 4K that's on the audience, like with this camera, for example, when we trim it up, it zooms in on me. So we're actually only on one camera, but the way we edit it, it looks like it's on three. You've got the overview and then the two. And if you had a big serious 4K camera on the audience, you could really zoom in on that one couple, and because of that, you could probably get 10 to 12 clips
of per set. Of polarization of that happening. Yeah,
that'd be so funny.
Yeah.
Do it, Rog.
Yeah.
That's great. You could call it Roger Swift's Unstable.
Yeah, you could. No, I'm thinking the Fringe would be good, because if you're doing it every day for a month and then you get that. Yeah.
The content.
Yeah.
The content you could get out of that.
Yeah, you could actually, yeah. We're already half a few into
business.
Can I go and do it?
Yeah, mate. We'll send you this as a clip so you don't need to write any notes. That's incredible. Yeah. So tell me about you then, Rog, because obviously when we started this podcast, I'm going to be honest, I wanted it to be talking about sort of dark times and hard times in people's lives and adversity overcome. But the way it's kind of evolved, and I'm actually preferring the way it's evolved, is I just get to know the person and get to know my guest story really. So what have you give me some stories? Tell me about the life of Swifty, mate.
Where do we start? Well,
the beginning.
Yeah. Well, it was dark, then it was very light.
Crowning. Yeah.
That's an old Tim Vine joke. Sorry. No.
Sorry, Mrs. Swift.
Where do we start? Well, I was the oddball at school, as you could expect.
Yep.
when I was.
Sorry, I said yes. So matter of fact.
Yeah, it's fine.
I didn't mean it as it you know what I mean. But yes,
I was the school oddball. I mean, I'm sure that I've got him on Facebook now. Like, to show, it's obviously oddball's doing this with his life, but. I was I had about 4 or 5 friends at school. I used to have lunch with the outcasts. If you ever watched American Dad, you have Steve Smith and his gang. It was reminded that was us. That was we were but I was the fat one. But but I was the nerdy one like Steve. But I was the fat one. But anyway, so I was I'm trying to think of stories to go into. So. That aren't embarrassing. No,
let's do the embarrassing. No, only if you're happy to, of course.
I'm trying to think back to school now because I've sort of not blanked it out. But
were you bullied at school?
Yes.
Were you? Was it quite bad?
Well, not bad, but I did get bullied. Yeah, because, for being weird. Yeah.
Well, it's strange you say that because obviously I'm disabled, and I went to a mainstream school, and because I went to Thomas Talford School as my secondary school, so my primary school. It shared a car park with a special educational needs school. So I don't know if you remember Homer Lake Primary School.
I've heard
around
of it,
here. So I was at
I do
Homer
know
Lake.
of it.
Yeah, and then across the car park it was called Thomas Parker. It's now called The Bridge. It's a special needs school.
I've heard of it.
A lot of the kids that were mainly just physically disabled from there ended up going to Homer Lake as a primary school. So what I'm getting at with that is there was a lot of disabled kids at that primary school. So I wasn't unusual. But then when I went to secondary school, Thomas Talford, I was the first disabled kid in the school. So obviously for them, it was like, fucking hell, we got a little spaz. And my dad thought I was going to get really bullied. And I've told this story in this pod before. I won't bore you guys again, but he sat me down and gave me this speech and he was right. And I ended up kicking off on the first day. But what I found, and I don't mean any disrespect with this, I found that the guys who just weren't normal, who were sort of into different hobbies and stuff.
Yes.
Actually got far more stick than I did.
Yes. The people who were into alternative things.
Yeah.
I was not into football. All the other kids talk about football.
Yeah.
Well, we want to go back far enough. I mean, my thing was at school at that age when I was 13, I was obsessed. And I mean, like literally obsessed with the pop charts, like the top 40 countdown.
I've heard this, yeah. I've heard you say this.
So, like, that was my religion, like who was in the charts and all that kind of thing. Top of the pops. I was 13, 14, right?
Yeah.
Bear that in mind. I mean, now I couldn't give a F about. I mean, it's all crap now.
Go on, you can say it.
You get older and like, who cares now? Like, it's rubbish. But then everyone goes through that. Of course, you always the thing you attach to yourself to that point in time. So, I was kind of I was the weird kid, or they'd bully me, or they'd say, Rog, who sings that song that goes on Corin Foire Sash? Yeah. So
great choice of song, by the way.
That was one plucked from my head.
Honestly, that is one of the bangers that I remember from my clubbing days. On Corin Foire.
On Corin Foire, number 2 Sash. But knowing chart positions and things like that. So I was kind of into that, or I was into but that's when I was at school. So yes, alternative hobbies and weird things, or computer games like everyone. I used to have a Super Nintendo, and I still have technically. And
it was a Mega Drive for me.
Oh, you were a Mega Drive. Yeah. This is it. This was the rivalry.
I was the Mega
you were
Drive
a Super Nintendo, or you were a Mega Drive.
Yeah.
And I was a Super Nintendo kid.
Yeah.
So
I would have bullied you. No, I wouldn't.
No, I didn't get bullied for that. Yeah. It was just being, the weird kid who was into. But mostly it was most of the potch. I was known as the kid who just knew everything about whatever was in the charts at the moment, or who was number one.
Yeah.
And while everyone else would be like, talking about football or whatever, Aston Villa or whatever it is, and to this day I still don't care.
Don't give a shit
about any of that.
Yeah.
But, they'd only, I was always the one like, that song that's in the charts, that's a cover version, because kids don't care. They're like, who cares? Like, that's a cover, and I've heard the original.
And it's mad because
in the pre-internet world,
now I find that shit interesting. It's like, what's the word when they when they sample it?
I was obsessed with that. I was obsessed with what was sampled in it. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So there's a song, it's by Reflect, called Need to Feel Loved or something like that.
I've heard of it.
And that has been sampled from a song years and years and years ago. And it came from just these 3 little chords within a song. And it wasn't even the main chorus or anything. It was just, and I love how the music...
Oh, I could go into hours. I could do hours about sampling.
Now, if I met you as that kid now, I would gnaw your ears off for hours, and I'd find it great. But back then,
just you're a weirdo.
Back then, I'd be like, "Fuck off, Rog." So I would, and I'm sorry, you just would. It's not. We're not.
There's actually a website called whosampled.com now, which is just you just go on it and put any song in it, so all the samples in it, the cues, and there's YouTube links.
Amazing.
Now, if you went back in time to when I was the 13-year-old kid bullied at school and said, "This is what is going to be happening 30 years time. This is Facebook. This is streaming." I'd be like, "This is a website where," and my mind would be like, "Oh,
boom,
like boom." You used to go for hours, like, what's that sample in that song? And then you'd spend you'd have to go, and this is the pre-internet world. You'd have to I want, and then you want to go and hear it, and then you went into Virgin Megastore, and it'd be like $14.99. Like, I can't afford that. I just want to hear what the sample is in it.
I mean, to be fair, you're saying that about if you had a bit in the past and you say this would be this, and this. If I could go back to myself, I'd say buy some fucking bitcoins. That's what I'd be saying, mate. Buy some bitcoins. Man, they're rocketing now, aren't they?
Put some money. Donald Trump, the real estate agent, he's going to be president. Money on that.
Bet on that. 100%.
Exactly.
Get stocks in Royal Mail and Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But
we all would.
Do you remember that about Royal Mail all them years ago? Anyway, so that's cool. So how did you get into? Because I don't really want to focus on your hardships at school. If you're bullied, that I don't want to bring.
I was the weird kid who was bullied.
Yeah. So what do you think? That's what made you get into comedy as a bit of
possibly
release? How did you get into it? Because I didn't know you then, obviously.
Well, it's actually a bit of a weird story because I had one of my nerdy friends from school. I stayed in touch with him after we left school. I don't anymore. I haven't actually seen him for years, but we kept in touch with
name?
Jonathan Morgan. If you ever watch
Jonathan Morgan, we're gonna fucking tag you. Get
you ever watch him? Again, he was like me. He was a like-minded one. He was another bullied weird kid. He was in no offense, Jonathan, you watch him, but we're adults now. And his thing was he was obsessed with science and electricity. We go around making homemade bombs out of weed.
Oh, he was that kid.
He was that kid.
Yeah,
and I was friends, and obviously we just gelled. Obviously, being it.
So you gelled with the local terrorists.
Yes. Yeah. He used to make bombs out of weed killer, and he made his own Tesla coil in his bedroom when he was like 14.
No
you know what
way.
Tesla coil? There was like things
I know what you mean. Yeah.
He made one himself.
But you're saying that as if that's the focal point. Yeah. What you've skipped over is that he made his own bomb out of fertilizer.
He used to have his own. He'd buy fertilizer, and in his garden he'd make blow. He didn't blow the school up. He just he'd blow toys up in his garden and things like that.
He was like Sid off the Toy Story.
Yeah, and he knew everything about electricity. The ohms, the amps. Things I know now, there's a different electrical systems. He knew all that. At 14 years old, he'd know Australia have this in a pre-internet world. He'd know that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but
what's he doing now? Do you know?
I'm not actually sure. He went to work in factories for years, and he was always working in different factories.
That seems like I don't mean this disrespectfully to factory workers, but that seems like a waste. If he had that,
he had loads of money.
Oh right, okay. I was going to say if he had that level of intelligence and sort of. Interest in something, it seems a waste to him to go to something like that.
But he was, I stayed friends with him for a while.
Sorry, I went off track there.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's a podcast. What you do, right?
Yeah.
I stayed friends with him for a while, and then when we were in our early 20s, we used to we'd sit and we'd watch cartoons in our 20s, which I still do. I still like watching.
Oh, mate.
SpongeBob's brilliant.
Archer.
I've watched Archer, it's not my favourite. I watched most of the others. Bob's Burgers and Family Guy I still follow. I follow them.
What about Dragon Ball Z?
I've not actually watched that.
You haven't watched Dragon Ball Z?
Believe it or not. Yeah. Not so much the ME. I don't watch the Japanese ME. I'm more into the Western American stuff. But
I love anime. I'm big into Bleach at the minute. Anyway,
I know what it is, but I'm not actually into anime. I'm into the Western stuff, the Nickelodeon and that kind of stuff. But the old Nickelodeon cartoons, Rocko's Modern Life, things like that I like.
Johnny Bravo?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Johnny Bravo, Dexter's Laboratory. I could do string loads, could go on to that conversation. But we used to watch things like that, me and him. And one night, what we'd do is it would finish about 10 o'clock at night. We had Sky Plus, because I was working at Epson, the printer factory. That's my first job when I left school. I did that. And he was working somewhere else. And we used to, weekends, we would sit watching that at night. And he was, we were watching, I can't remember which SpongeBob or something, and it used to finish at 10 o'clock, the kids' channels we were watching. And we're in our 20s, by the way, we're in our early 20s. And then
they're it's bedtime now.
It's bedtime for kids, but we're adults, so we're not. So what we used to do is we used to flick over and they'd have the comedy, it was clips of the Comedy Store. I think it was Paramount Comedy. It's Comedy Central now. I think it was called Paramount Comedy back then on Sky Plus. But what it was is my mum and dad's, I still live with my mum and dad now, but back then they had Sky Plus down downstairs. And we had the thing where I could get it in my bedroom as well.
Right,
So we both had it. I was sort of teeing off theirs.
Was it one of them? Was it back in the day where you had to watch the same channel though? Yeah.
Yes. Oh, they were watching BBC One, but I would be watching that.
The porn on.
Yeah. But actually, I could make, when I first started stand-up, I tried making a joke out of that idea because it was the kind of thing where, you know, I'd be sat watching SpongeBob or Rugrats in my early 20s, and my mum would walk in the room and she'd, "What, you watching porn?" I'm watching the flick quickly onto porn.
That's a great gag. Yeah.
I'm watching porn, Mum. Honestly, great. I'm watching the porn.
Yeah.
But
did that not work?
Not really. I mean, it was before I started before I get onto anyway. Right. But we're going off on tangents within tangents.
That's what we're here for, mate. That's what we're here for.
But we were watching cartoons, and we went over to that, and you'd get these clips of the Comedy Store, which I didn't know. Now I know. I understand what it was now. With clips of pro acts from the London Comedy Store, because I'm savvy. I didn't then. And I'd watch all these clips, and we'd go to that, and we'd just watch all these random unknowns. I know now they were pro acts, but you know, unknowns doing all these stand-up clips. And I saw back then, Russell Brand, Michael McIntyre, John Bishop before they were big. I know that I saw clips of them.
Yeah.
I don't remember rating Russell Brand even back then, thinking, this guy's not funny. Even
maybe the less said about him.
Less said about him, but I'm just as an example. I remember thinking even then going, I wasn't trying to do it to be cool. I remember back then going, well, this one's not very funny. But anyway, we were watching those all the time, and on most nights, or we'd watch some again. You get some repeat, or you get them doing different material. Yeah. And we were just used to watch and laugh at that. So it was either cartoons or that we were into, because neither of us were into sport. That was why we gelled again. Yeah. And we were watching one of them one night, and I went, no one's ever done music festivals, because then, tangent again, we used to go to music festivals. We went to couple. We went to V and we went to Leeds.
Okay, because V was just up the road, wasn't it?
Went to V in Leeds, and we'd been to a couple of, me and him had been, and my brother, three of us, no, tell a lie, four of us, my brother's mate, me and John, we'd all be gone to, as a foursome, gone to a few festivals, because we're into rock music as well. That's a whole other tangent, and that's a whole other time. We went a couple of times, like 2 or 3 of them. Yeah. And I was watching this stand-up clips, and I just went, no one's ever done music festivals. No one's done that topic, have they? And no stand's ever gone, you're at a music festival, when that happens and this happens. Yeah. That's a tangent of thought. No one's ever done that topic specifically. Yeah. And I kept saying it, like I do repeat myself like night after night. Why do any of them do that topic? There's a gold mine. There's got to be something in that. Yeah. And then he was like, well, do it yourself then. If you think there's mileage in that, maybe they can't do it because there isn't that. Yeah. So it was like, do it yourself. And I was like, all right, I will. And in my mind, I wasn't like a long-term thing. I was just like, right, how would Lee Evans do this? If it was a Lee Evans show, and there was a bit in a Lee Evans show, how would he approach that topic? Because that's how my mind, I was just writing it like that, going, just as if it's a bit in a Lee Evans show. So I went and wrote this bit of material, and then I went and did it to him. I was like, well, I've got this, so here we go. I just did it to him in a room like that. And he said, go and do an open mic night. Find an open mic night and just do it and just see if it gets laughs. I was like, okay. So... And he went online and found it for me, and I just Googled Telford comedy. Oh, there's nothing in Telford, so I can't really do anything. And then he just went and Googled. He said, I found them at the nearest one. It's in a place called Cradley Heath. And that's the nearest, we'll have anyone on. And I was like...
That gig has been mentioned a few times on this podcast.
But he Googled it.
The Bush.
The legendary Hollywood.
The legendary Hollywood.
But he Googled it and found it. He said, that's where apparently anyone can ever go there. Because I think I messaged a couple of others and I didn't know. I didn't know they were pro bills and I was getting rejected. And I thought, I couldn't understand what I get it.
We've all made that mistake.
I get it now. I'm like, I go back in time and like, when I made those emails going, stop it. You don't know what you're doing. But,
mate, the amount of times I applied to headline a gig when I only had 10 minutes of material. It was unbelievable. Yeah.
But it was like that. But he did it. So he said, we'll go to this Holy Bush. So we went down to this. It was in August 2009, so 15 years ago. Yeah. I was about 25, 26 then. Yeah. And then I just went up and he said, go on and do it. So I went on and did it. And I was never nervous.
Was it still Dave?
It was still Dave. Yeah. It was Dave back then. And I was never like nervous or like, scared. I just wanted to do it. It was just I'll try this, just see what happens. Yeah. And I went up and did this it was about, even then my first ever gig, I did about 9 minutes. I think I did about 9 minutes and just did this whole routine. And it did get laughs.
Cool.
It got laughs. And I thought, and while I was up there doing it, it wasn't intended. I was like, oh, I quite like that. I quite enjoyed that. That was quite nice. And they said, where are everyone? So I want to do it again. Is there any more? I want to try that again. And so I Googled, and I did a deeper Google, and I found there was one in it where he'd found the Hollybush from.
Yeah.
He said, was a website called the West Midlands Comedy Forum, which I didn't know about. He found it on there. And it said,
was it on Facebook or was it
no,
just
it was before. This is before,
yeah,
just a forum. Remember forums?
Yeah.
Hey, remember forums before Facebook? So I went and found that and then looked down at all these other ones you could do and emailed all of them. There was like about 10 at the time. And I know one of them was the one in Dudley that's, what's it called? I forgot what it's called now.
I don't know.
And there was one in Dudley and it was, that was run by,
before my time.
Yeah, it was hilarious, run by Peter, what's his name? It was Philip.
Vincent?
Philip McCullen was his name. He ran hilarious. He was involved with it.
No idea, mate.
He ran one at the Dudley and a few of us. One got back to me. It was Rob Howden. You met
Rob,
from Juice. He was the only one who replied, and I did a load of them. And he had one in staff. And he said, "Yeah, do you want to come and do next Monday?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I went there on my own, and I said, "John, well, I've got another one. Do you want to come with me?" "Oh no, I can't be." He wouldn't come to that one. So I went on my own and did it in Juice in Jockster's Bread. And it's like that was one of them gigs that shouldn't work because it was like a one-room, odd-shaped pub.
But you don't realise at the time.
I don't think about it, but now I'll be like, there is no way that should have worked. So I went there and did the same 10 minutes, almost tweaked it a bit.
Yeah.
And went and did the same 10 minutes, and it only got a mild response, and stuff that had landed at the Hollybush didn't land there, and bits and things. It was a bit, and I'd written a bit on the way there, and I did a bit more, and I'd written on while I was driving there, and then.
And I bet you were so confident.
I went in there so confident.
I fucking got
this is going to be great.
Yeah.
I remember.
That's going to be an applause break.
This is going to land, and it wasn't like bad. I didn't die, but it was only a mediocre response that time. Yeah. I thought, oh right, it doesn't always work every single time.
Yeah.
And then what happened then? And then I was I went back to the Hollybush and did it again. And then what I did is there was a long bit in this routine about the music festival where I was telling this story about, so I was walking along and there's this bloke doing this, and it took about a minute, 90 seconds before we'd no real thing in it. It would just sort of dip in it.
Yeah. So a 90-second build up to a punchline.
And then that punchline wasn't even that funny, if I remember rightly. It wasn't even.
Yeah, if you're going to do that, it's got to be worth the payoff.
And it wasn't worth the payoff. Now I know, of course I wasn't new. I didn't know. It wasn't worth the payoff at the end. And I think the punchline was, put something we can't see because they have all the people jumping up and down in time. Like that was always one going at a time. And I went, that's why he's trying to see. Again, it's not. Look, I was 3 gigs in. That was hilarious to me at the time.
And you know what? You put thought into it. It was logical. It made sense. At least I can understand where it came from.
But then what happened is I was trying to do something, and that's where I came up with my first prop gag. That was the very first prop gag I wrote, which was there was a whole bit, 90 seconds, and in the middle of it, I just suddenly pulled out my pocket a leaf and just went. So I was I just turned over a new leaf and chucked it behind me. And
so it was literally just a throwaway gag.
Yeah, just a throwaway gag. There's it, and that kind of got a groan in like that in it, and I thought. And then I was like, "Oh, okay, maybe." So then I started putting more in, just shoehorning these random things in the story, just like. And then I came trying whichever ones. Oh, I used to have one. I don't do it anymore. Which I had a Nintendo Wii remotes.
Right,
the Wii remotes.
Yeah.
I just pick one of them and just swing it around my hand and go Wii. Because again, I thought that was funny. I wouldn't do that one now. But again,
you would.
Well, actually, I would, but I don't think anyone would get it now. It's a bit too dated now. But at the time, they were current. It was actually my Wiimote. I just used to take it around and do that.
Oh, so you didn't throw that around?
I just like wee, and then put it down and just swing it around my head. And then I was doing. I can't remember exactly how the steps, but. I was doing that, and then I was at a gig. I was about like 6, 7 in, and I'd done the Hollybush for a second time. Yeah. And I met a guy called Al Rudge.
I know Al.
The comedy magician. Yeah. And he saw it, and he said afterwards, and he said, "Drop the stories, do the props." He said, don't do stories. He said, don't do any of them stories. He said, just go on there and just do prop gags and one-liners. I was like, okay. And then I was at another gig, and somebody sort of said the same thing, and he said, "Drop the prop gags, just do one line."
Who was it who said it second time?
Some random guy was another act on the bill. I can't remember. I think he's quit now. Don't ask me who it was. I can't remember who it was.
I was just wondering if he was still going there. That was all.
But that was Al Rudge. And then another one, he said, "Just drop the props." And then he actually said the golden thing to me. He said, "Have you heard of a comedian called Tim Vine?" And I was like, "No." Never, who's that? And he said, right, he's a stand-up, and what he does is there's no stories, there's nothing else. He just goes on there and just goes gag, like Christmas cracker jokes, just bang, bang, bang. That's it. And I was like, sorry. And I was like, you can do that? I thought, that's a thing? You can do that? And he said, and so I went into Blockbuster. Remember them? I went into Blockbuster and rented the Tim Vine live DVD.
Yeah.
And when I looked at the case, I went, oh, it's the bloke from the Sketch Show.
Yeah,
because he used to be on ITV called the Sketch Show, and I'd seen him in that, and I did not know he was a stand-up as well, because I was. Of course, now it's obvious. But
in hindsight.
In hindsight, I get it now. But at the time, I was like, oh, right. So I rented that, took it and watched it. And that was kind of the epiphany. I was like, wow, you can take the concept of Christmas cracker jokes just to that level. Even I was groaning when he first started. And I was like, oh, my God, an hour of this. I was like, and then the more I went in, they're like, this is brilliant. This is... And I was like, I get it now. Now. I got like 5 or 6, 7, 8 Tim Vine gags, and I didn't know it in the set.
Yeah.
So just quit for about 3 months and just went around charity shops going, right, let's try it. Let's write a 10 minutes out. Just gag with this.
Nice.
And then I went around a charity shop, like picking up things, going, how can I do that? And what can I do with that? And most of them are gone now. Like I don't even use them anymore. But I can't remember what. I know one was a little, like a fake bird you put on your roof to
ward off.
Yeah. And one of them was like a pan. And I had one of them and like, I like your jokes. That's a bird's eye view of the show. Things like that.
Yeah.
And little crappy ones. And then a roll of material. And I just throw it out and go, I've run out of material. Just those kind of, and those kind of gags were in it. And there was one gag I've kept through, and I'll come to that in just a sec, but all the way through. But and then I went and did the Hollybush, and I'd stopped for about 3 months, and by this point, then Jonathan Morgan came with me again for this one, and I came back. I said, right, I've got this thing I'm going to try now. Went there with this suitcase full of props. Right, I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
And I said, this is what I'm going to do. And then I went there and did it.
Went to the Bush and did this.
Yeah, and for the first time, the second time at the Bush, was it I think it was the third. But I'd not done this, just done one-liners and props. Went up there and did it, and it's like, and it just fell into place. It's just, that's it.
Love that.
That's exactly what it is. And Al Rudge was in the audience that night, and Dave Dinsdale, I met him for the first time that night. Yeah. He was in the audience, and Al Rudge came up to me afterwards and he said, yep, that's it. Bit of advice. What you want is like a bright shirt, like a loud shirt, like Milton Jones wears. Yeah. And sort of do it as if you're like an ex-kids TV presenter that's been fired. Trying to do it like that.
Nice. Yeah.
And then he said, that's what you want.
But without the allegations.
Yeah. He said, sort of a Timmy Mallet kind of thing. He said, you want to do it like that. And then basically, I've never looked back since, and that's just it. And
that's great.
And I've just never really look back on it, and ever since then I've just carried on, and then the promoting came later.
Yeah. Well, let's stop there. Let's go for a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about that joke you were going to say, and also about promoting. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes, guys. See you in a bit. Thank you. Welcome back to part 2, guys. Thanks for sticking around. Roger hasn't done a runner, which, let's be honest, would have been very easy for him because he'd have ran away from me, no problem at all. Thanks for sticking around, mate.
No worries.
You just said then while we were having a break that you were unemployed at that time, and that's one of the reasons that sort of made you go into it.
I've had several jobs. I used to work at Epsom, I've mentioned at the printer factory.
Yeah.
And then where else? And I worked at Nestle. Not Nestle. Nestle. I was in several factories.
What were you making?
Kit Kat ice creams. Again, I was only about 2 months or something like that. I was making Kit Kat ice creams.
You are a hero.
Well, it's not when it's freezing cold. You have to wear a coat all day long. You're in a refrigerating environment. I did that for a while, and then
did you get all the ice cream you could eat?
No.
Oh.
You get like the odd one. I think
did you nick a bit as it was going
around? I used to eat. I would eat some of the chocolate. But, I did that for a while. I'm trying to think what other jobs I did then. And then I was.
Sorry, just go back to that. How much do you reckon they allocated for wastage?
I have no idea.
Because they'll
a fair amount.
They'll have known people were doing that. Yeah. They must have allowed for a certain percentage of wastage.
I can't. Because such a long time ago.
I wouldn't have lunch. I'd just dog down Kit Kat all day.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I got excited by Kit Kats then. Sorry, mate.
It wasn't. It was a pretty boring job because you're just doing it all day, every day. It's like anything. It doesn't matter by the end of it. And you're freezing cold. But anyway, and then what else? And then I was at Lyrico, which is a company.
I know Lyrico.
I was there for a while.
Sell stationery and stuff, don't they?
I was doing an apprenticeship there for a while, and you get paid
to be a salesman.
No, to work in the office.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Because I used to work at a few of the hotels in Telford, and because they had the Lyrico office there, all the trainee salesmen would come, and they'd spend like 2 weeks there, and they were dicks.
Oh yeah,
they were just fucking dicks.
Yeah.
We used to hate the Lyrico guests. Yeah.
Well, so I worked there, and it was because I worked in factories for a while, and then I decided, let's try and do something more office space. Let's go, and I got an apprenticeship there. And what you do basically is you do 1 day at college a week, and then you work 5, and they pay you peanuts. You don't even get minimum wage.
Apprenticeship
so
wage.
I did that for about a year, and it was just exploitation. They had no interest in getting me for employing me afterwards, and they just basically ended the contract.
Right.
And basically, and then I was working at a company called Auto Scanning at Oaken Gates, which is like.
Okay.
They send engineers into plants, and I did all the admin for that for about a year, for about 2 years, and I got made redundant from that. And I actually liked that job as well. That was my favourite one. I enjoyed that. That was a full-time one from 8 till 4 every day, and it was. And I like that job. And if I hadn't got made redundant, this never would have happened. Right. If I hadn't got redundant, if I carried on longer, probably this would never have happened. And then. I was unemployed in between, and again watching cartoons with me and Commander with me mate because I had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
But and then that's what led me into doing stand up. I just and again for some reason I ended up doing it.
Yeah. Do you find it weird? Because I find it weird that really there's only me and you in Telford.
Yeah. There have been others in the past, but
do you find that strange? Because you go to other towns and cities, and there's obviously loads. There's loads of nights. Literally every other town and city I could think of, there's 5 or 6 minimum. Yeah. Why do you not think Telford's got many?
I don't know.
Strange, isn't it?
It's just weird. The two sort of take it seriously. I mean, we've done it for a while. And yeah. Well, others have come along. We've had no offense. I could name some other ones that were that were newbies who came along and did it for a while, but then they quit again.
Who?
Ben Dole, Richard Shaw. Who else has been? Chris Jones was another one.
I don't know that.
And who was that one? We had that guy who came. The girl who lived in St George's. She did it for about. She did 3. She did The Crown, and then she went and did the Hollybush, and then she did the other one, and she died in the rush, and she quit. She's like, I had a bad gig, I quit.
Right, okay.
But
a bad gig will sort the men from the boys, so to speak.
Ben Dole was a guy, and he lived in Ketley, and he did it for a while. He stuck at it for a bit. He did it for about 2.5, 3 years.
Okay, we'll probably bleep the second word of that, the K word, out of that, because we don't want to give his name and where he lives.
Oh, okay. Bleep that.
Bleep the K word out of that.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. He lives in a part of Telford.
Yeah, he lives in Telford.
And he did it for a bit, and then he had to quit because I'm not sure why. He just they just quit after so long.
Right.
He got into compare as well. He actually did start to compare for a bit as well.
Was he good?
He was. How can I put it this way? He was one of them that he was. He was terrible at first. They all are.
Oh yeah.
He got better as time went on. He did learn his craft, and he did start to get a bit better. He had a couple of good jokes in his set.
Yeah.
And then he like all of them, he just eventually just quit.
Right. I mean, it's hard graft, and you've just touched upon it there. I don't think people.
But he worked full time, so.
Well, yeah. I don't think people you don't realise how shit you are when you start.
Yeah.
You don't know.
I don't realise how shit I am now.
Shit you are. Well, yeah, neither do I. But you don't know how shit you are when you start, and then it's only when you look back you think, fucking hell.
Yeah.
I said that.
Yeah.
Some of the jokes I'm so glad I have not put out on the internet.
Yeah. Well, I have one joke to go back on. I have one joke I did in the very first ever gig, and it's still in my set now. One gag which is consistent throughout the whole thing. Even when I was telling stories, I shoehorned it in.
Obviously, don't tell the joke. But give me a word so I'll know what joke
Stephen
it is.
Hawking.
Oh, yeah, great. Right. Yeah.
I wrote that when I was at school, 14, with my little gang in the lunchroom. And somebody said something that said something, we were watching that like MTV Unplugged last night. I went to the joke, MTV Unplugged last night. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then on the fly, I just came up with that gag. Just bang, came up with that gag. Yeah. And then for some reason, when I came to write my first set, it was there. It just came back. And I went, okay.
It's a great joke.
That's why it's such a dated joke by today. It's actually quite a dated reference. But
it's good.
Well, the more recently, it started now it will either land really hard or and I get because he's now dead. So
it probably did work better when he was alive.
It worked better when he was alive. It did work, and then when he died, then it got and then briefly 6 months it started getting good laughs again. Now it's sort of gone down again where it's not. But anyway,
run it until it fails.
I was not going to take it out, but that gag's been consistently in my set. I never got rid of that one because it's still a one-liner gag. Because back then I think I didn't open with it. It was like quite early in the set. I dropped it quite early on, and when the Hollybush, that was kind of the first laugh I ever got on stage. When I did that first Hollybush gig, and I dropped that right at the start, and it was like. Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, it's like my Black Lives Matter joke. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to do the joke, but I've got a Black Lives Matter joke. It's pro Black Lives Matter, by the way. It's not like anti. It's a good, clever joke.
Yes, but, I can confirm it is.
Yeah, but the BLM movement is obviously it's not. It's an old. It's dated.
Yeah, yeah.
And people, I've had a few people say drop it, but I'm not going to drop it until it stops working.
Yeah.
When it stops working, of course I'm going to drop it. But while it's still getting the laughs, I'm milking that till it turns into cheese, mate.
Yeah. There's no harm in it. It still works. I mean,
if it works,
eventually gets to a point. I mean, I've got a thing now, which is now I had a reoccurring joke, which was they're not all about music, but now it's they weren't dead when I wrote it. Yeah. Because I've got so many jokes about celebrities that have since passed away, Stephen Hawking being one of them. I've now turned that into a joke that's become the laugh in the set I get now. So so-and-so, they weren't dead when I wrote it.
Yeah, that's great. It's great you've got a topper for them dying.
Yeah.
Death is funny.
Yeah, it's not actually about them dying ever. It's just now. It's like so celebrity X. They weren't dead when I wrote it. Yeah, and I won't say who it was again, but I had a celebrity literally in July they died, and I've had a gag for years about them. It's just a play on one. It was a singer.
Why can't you say the name?
Sinead O'Connor.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was a Sinead O'Connor gag. It's just to play. The punchline is a play on one of the songs.
I know the joke. Yeah.
And that's all it is. There's nothing about her in there. And then that she died in the July, and that August I went and did it, and
you were doing it for an hour.
And I do more show spots at the Fringe, and every day for that entire first half of the Fringe. I think that was the year you were there that year. For that first half of the Fringe, every day. So Sinead O'Connor, she wasn't there when I wrote it. Boy, did that land so hard because she was fresh in the memory. She hadn't been dead a month at the time. Yeah,
because to the audience members, that would have looked like a very new.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, of course, it was years old.
That's great. I love that. I love that. So we spoke about how you got into comedy, and then you're probably more known now. I mean, obviously, comedians know you as a comic, but you're probably getting more known now as a promoter. Would you say? So
yes.
How did that come about? What made you do the move there? Because a lot of people, what I find interesting about you promoting is a lot of people. Comedians put nights on to get themselves stage time. They do it so they can MC themselves or compare themselves and get themselves stage time, which is a very good way of doing it, and I recommend it to every new act.
Yes.
But you don't do that.
No.
You don't. You just put nights on.
I just put nights on, yeah.
Yeah. So
and I perform myself on some of them.
Yeah. But what made you decide to run nights, and then on top of that, what made you decide to run nights and not compare them yourself?
It sort of fell into it really because I got, after a while, I've been gigging for 3 years. I think it's 2012, I think it was. And I was you know what I mean? Like, why aren't there any gigs in Telford? Because at that moment in time, there wasn't. I think there was, and it was like, what's his name? Laughter Lines. Forgotten the guy who runs.
Oh, I know you mean.
Yes. He ran like a pro one somewhere, like at the town centre, one of the hotels in the town centre. That was that one, I think. Which
I
early
will
on,
remember when when I'm not thinking about it.
But early on, he was one of the ones I got in touch with, not knowing better that he was a pro Bills. And then so there was just nothing in the area, and I just sort of felt, well, no one else is going to do it. I suppose I really should start one.
Sorry if it looks like I'm crying, Rog. I've got something in my eye.
Yeah, I guess.
This is going to be great for the audio listeners. Sorry, I'm just rubbing my eye because I've got something in it. Just carry on, Rog. Pretend. But I'm not emotional about your story, I promise. Sorry, mate, carry on.
So I just sort of fell into it, really. I just sort of thought, well, no one in Telford's doing one. I'll put one on. Yeah. And I've tried to retcon it from history, but the very first one I ever did was a car crash.
Of course it was.
I knew nothing. There's a promoter in Birmingham now.
Go on, name. KD. Okay, yeah.
I whispered into the microphone. KD.
KD.
Yeah. He ran this. He ran this gig that I ran, which is like, you don't know what you're doing. I put like 8 acts on. Yeah. I paid to hire a venue. Oh. Which, I feel I cringe that I did that. And I didn't know better.
Hindsight is an exact science.
Yeah, and it's like So it was. I hired the venue. I did it on a Friday night. I charged like £2 for the ticket. Yeah. And I put myself on as the headliner. And it was a big room.
That's so cringe.
Yeah, I know. I'm cringing explaining it. Oh no! It was just a terrible experience, and I had no idea. Dave Dinsdale was the compere.
How long did you do?
I thought, I'm ready to do 20, and I only done that 3 years, and I did about 5 minutes and gave up because I died so hard. It's like so hard. It's like,
who else was on the bill?
It was Dave Dinsdale.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at a new comic.
Yes, I know. I'm laughing at myself. I'm like, like.
Yeah.
Young like me, why were you doing? Why were you thinking of? And another pro comedian messaged me and said, "You're doing it all wrong. You don't know what you're doing. You've got to do this. You've got to pay this for a pro." And I just, you know what you're doing.
Who messaged you?
A guy called Matt Richards. Not Matt Richards. What was his name?
Matt Richardson.
Not Matt Richards. He moved to Canada shortly afterwards. I've forgotten his name now. Forgive me.
Anyway.
Matt something. He was a pro actor in the UK, and he moved to live in Canada.
Yeah.
Dinsdale will tell me his name.
Right, okay. I doubt Dinsdale.
You didn't know him. Yeah. You won't. He emailed me, he messaged me and said, "You don't know what you're doing. This is how you do." And I just went, "What do you bloody know?" And he was right. And I was like, "You were right."
And he was trying to help.
He was trying to help, and I learned now. I could go back and forgive him. Like, you were right. I'm sorry, you were right. But I put myself on as a thinking, "Oh, I'm ready for this." And then it was, I'm cringing thinking about it, how bad that went, and I lost so much money from it, and I got in too hard, and then I tried doing an open, and then I went down a level. Went, okay, I did try it again, but I thought, well, let's do an open mic night and do new material night. And I did it again in a local pub. Again, it was the wrong shape, and I did it in it wasn't the Crown. It was the first time, and then and I had Paul Savage.
Sorry, some of the comedy listeners who won't. Some of the non-comedy people, like the rooms. Like if you have like an L-shaped room or certain type rooms just don't work well for comedy. The ideal room is when they're packed in like sardines, low roof, and doesn't breed conversation.
Yes.
There are certain shapes of room that works better than others.
Because it's perpetual, the energy in the room.
Yeah, which is and it's very different setup to a music setup.
Yes.
And it's very different.
Whenever I go
comedy.
to a venue and pitch to them, because I do this, I go to venues and say, "This is how comedy nights work." That's why I say it's not the same as doing music. It's more like a theatre show than it is. Yeah. And I can tell you stories about that, where I've been to venues that quite not that long ago, and I went to a venue and a bloke wanted one, and all he was, "How much is it?" And I said, "Well, this is how much it is, but there's more to it than that." Well, and it was like on a balcony. So the band's play up there, the DJ plays up there, and they had like fixed seating, you couldn't move. And I was like, "It's not going to work." And I was like, "Look, you've got a corner over there, right?" Yeah. And he just his back was through. Like, "You know what you're talking about? I want a professional. Why can't they do it up there? Why can't they do it up there?" And I'm like, "Because obviously they're rubbish comedians. Then you don't, obviously they're in the wrong job. Then I'll call someone who knows what they're doing." And that's a whole other story. But that's now.
Was that a local venue?
It was in Newport.
Right, okay. You don't want to mention that.
I won't mention the name, but I'll tell you off camera.
Yeah, tell me off camera.
I don't know who it is. You might have heard of it. I'll tell you. I'll play exactly where it is. In Newport.
But I might approach him to put on a gig.
You can if you want. Go for it. I mean, you want a car crash?
Not a fucking chance, mate.
But he'll end up. I think he'll end up. I don't know if he did. So I was like, I walked away and I was like, call Mirth Control. They'll send you a bunch of London acts and it'll be a car crash and you'll blame them for being crap.
Blame the crap. But in his defence, they would be crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An open spot from London, he'll bring them and then they'll just be rubbish. But anyway, gone off on such a tangent there.
It's all right.
But I did it as an open mic night, the second one, and it went better. I think Paul Savage emceed. I went on as a 10 spot.
Yeah.
And who did I book as a headliner? I think it might have been Dinsdale, actually. It's a closer.
Yeah.
And that went so much better. Like, it was actually a good night. Yeah. And I was like...
So did you have like 4 open spots and then Dinsdale
I had like 4,
closing, Savage compared.
Savage compared, Dinsdale closed. I went on as the 4th 10 spot. I had a good gig that night. I remember it went quite well.
Great.
Who else did I have on? A few of them are quit now. And Melanie Smart and Dave Powner. You won't know that. It's going back quite some time. And then we did that. And then it was one of them, it was really good the first night. And the landlord just wasn't supportive of it. He just didn't really want to go. And then he didn't promote the second one. And then I don't think it wasn't as good. It was okay, but it didn't go as well. Or I think I had 10 people in. And then I met where I am now. I met John at the Crown through Jonathan Morgan, who I mentioned going back full circle. I met him. I spoke with him again, and he said, my local down in Oaken Gates, he might be interested. Yeah. So I got in touch with him and said, "You ever thought about doing a comedy night?" Yeah, we have thought about doing that. So I went and talked about him. And when I first met him, he said, we have musicians on. Why don't we just put the comedians in with the musicians? Of course, he's now gone. And he said, "Oh God, I'm cringe saying that now." He said, "I didn't know better, did I?" He said, and then
that's the thing. It's just ignorance.
Yes, you just don't know. And then we did it as an open mic night on a Sunday in the back room there, which is like really small. And we did it on
That little back, right? Okay,
There wasn't a fridge. There's a fridge in it now. There wasn't
right. Okay,
he's moved a fridge in it now.
Yeah,
But, that was like 2012 or 2013. We did it the first time, and it was an open mic night with a bucket at the end. Of course, I still didn't know. I didn't ask for any money. So it doesn't. We don't want money. I booked open spots. Again, I did a 10 spot on the first night, and it went quite well.
To be honest, like putting a night on, and a lot of the people who host them, a lot of people who put the nights on compare.
Yeah.
So I've got no problem with that, and I don't think it's wrong with putting yourself as a 10 spot.
I put myself. I always had compares.
Don't close it.
Yeah.
Like that.
No.
That's where
I learned that the first time.
That's where it's cringy. But to put yourself as a little 10 in the middle, that's fine.
I learned that the hard way the very first time. I put myself as 10s and had closers. And I think I did. I think I had 4. I think I had like 6 10 spots that night. Anyway.
Right.
I put myself as the 4, and that went well. And that was on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And then it sort of evolved from there. And then we ended up filling it was so big we ended up moving it into the front room.
Yeah.
And I remember we used to do it when it was free entry in a bucket at the end.
Yeah.
And somebody on the Facebook again because it does hurt your feelings. I remember this one, which is that somebody came and enjoyed it, and at the end when there was a bucket, we're passing the bucket round, and then he went all over the Facebook the next day and said, I went to watch what was supposed to be a free comedy night and they forced a bucket in my face, and that's not on. Why should I pay when when it said it was free? And I thought, okay.
Fuck off.
Yeah. And then eventually it was on a Sunday. And
but
then
it's not free, it's pay what you want, isn't it?
It was billed as free, and we did a bucket at the end.
If you don't want to pay anything, you don't have to.
And then we did it it was on a Sunday, and then how did it end up on a Tuesday? I can't. And then I think it tailed off, and then it did start to tail off. Yeah. And then we relaunched it, and we said, we'll move it to a Tuesday. Maybe that will work better. And then we added a curry with it at one point, and then put tickets on it. And then it and then that did work the first time. And then again, it tailed off.
Yeah.
And almost died, and we were almost getting ready to give up on it.
Yeah.
And then it just suddenly came up, and then we've and climbed back, and now we've been doing it for years. And
it has to be Telford's longest running comedy gig. I mean, there's one in Wellington that's been running a while.
Yeah, that's the Red Brick, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's new.
That's not been running as long.
I think
that must be the longest running.
It's the longest run. I might be wrong, and someone will fact check me and correct me if I'm wrong. But I think possibly it's the longest in the West Midlands, apart from the Hollybush. Possibly
the whole of the West Midlands.
Possibly, I'm not 100% on that.
Does Donald Mackerel's nights fall under the West Midlands, or is that?
That's again. All is a guy. I've been might have been running way longer than Donald's.
Right. Okay.
Donald's quite new. In comparison.
Right.
The former comedian, we could talk about him, couldn't we?
Yeah. I'll get him on actually. Yeah. He's an interesting
He'll tell his
guy.
story. Yeah, he's gone into now. He's given up comedy. He does a video game YouTuber now.
Yeah,
which he's doing quite well with by the looks of it. He's doing pretty well with it by the looks of it.
So his character, basically, it's called Mr. Badger. I beg your pardon. Yeah. And I love the character premise. It's basically a kids TV presenter that's just failed, like an old retired or fired old school kids TV presenter that is pretty much a nonce.
Yeah, that's basically the premise.
He's basically a pedo kids presenter,
but he's one of them like
from
me.
The 40 or the 80s, and it's so if you're into dark humor.
Yeah, it's so dark, but it was so clever. It was really clever.
It's a really good premise, and I think it's such a good character. I really like the Badger.
Yeah, it was a clever thing. But
as a character, I fucking hate him if he was in real life. But as an actor, as a character, it's fucking great.
And it was original. It was clever.
Yeah.
But it was again much like myself. It was a bit Marmite. It would go either way.
Yeah.
I saw it hit so hard sometimes. I'd see it absolutely bomb as well. So if they just took it at face again, Mr. Badger and me had that same thing. Is some audiences will just take it utterly at face value.
If they don't see Mr. Badger for satire.
Yes.
If that's why I got the words mixed up. Then if they don't see it for the satirical comic that it is, then they're not going to enjoy it. But if they can appreciate the fact that it's irony,
and he had nowhere to go if he didn't. I mean, something I've got a bit better at. If they don't go with me, I can go into the breakdown and the thing with it. Whereas he had absolutely nothing. No way out of it. He just took the mask off. And I saw him do it a couple of times where he just take the mask off and just go, it's not real. It's a character. See,
that's where I'm quite lucky, where I don't think you are really. Because of the way I do my act, if it's going badly, I can just go into crowd work.
Yes.
You know, that's my get out of jail card, is I'll just talk to the crowd. But you don't do that, do you? You can't,
because
really,
I'm all right now talking in a podcast, but if you put it in front of I'm kind of like, if I'm in character or in persona and I've got my set and I can sort of, what I like to think is I'm on a motorway, I can come off to the services and sort of lib around it. I can't completely come off and go in another direction. It's I have to keep coming back to it. It's like I can't just turn and talk to people. I sort of, that's why I don't compare. I don't know. I dry up. I don't know what to say.
Because you did try it fairly recently, didn't you?
I did it at my own gig and I did it once. And all I did was I just did sort of cut up bits of my act and sort of did do some crowd work in it. But I did it as a one-off and was like, and it worked because it was my local, and they sort of bought into me as a thing.
And actually, I pulled out of it last week, and I apologise for that. But it is a great gig.
Yes.
Like for me as well, with sort of where I am now in terms of career, it's so lovely to have a gig on a Tuesday that I know is going to have a number of people in there to run out some new stuff.
But it's been running all these years. Nothing's set in stone. We'll still randomly get a month we only sell 15 and you have to turn it into half the room.
Yeah, but I think that's life.
Yeah,
that's life.
But we do it every month now, and we even do Edinburgh previews in June and July.
Amazing. So remind me, what day is it? The second Tuesday.
Second Tuesday of the month.
So second Tuesday of the month at the Crown in Oakengate.
Gate.
If you're local to Telford, and
go.
You're free on a Tuesday. Seriously, I think, is it £10 for a curry and a comedy?
It's 13 if you want it with a curry. It's £8 if you just want.
Okay, so just comedy, £8.
And curry's not all the time. It used to be, but it sort of goes on and up. That's not my department.
Right. Okay. That's the other guy. That's the other guy. But no, it is a great night. So you'll get so there's always a paid compere. So there's always someone who's talented comparing, and there's a paid headliner, and then there's a mix of pros doing new material and up and comers doing their solid material. So
carfuls. Sometimes you'll get like people who come with the headliner. I always try and mix it up. But
so it's good. You'll see a few comments, and like any mixed bill, you won't like everybody, but I can guarantee you will like at least one of the acts on the bill. Yep. So if you're local and you're free on the second Tuesday of the month, seriously, do go to the Crown in Oakengate.
7:30.
I'd advise booking, actually. I'd advise getting your tickets, because every time I've been there, it's been sold out.
Well, the way the room
probably
is...
because I'm there, though, Rod. You know what I mean? I don't like to brag, mate, but they see my name on there.
Even in the main room of the pub, or in the front room of the pub, and again, it shouldn't work, but then we have to lock the front door, and we have to... The people who aren't there... Sorry, I'm knocking the mic. The people who aren't there for comedy have to go into the back room instead, where it used to be in the corridor.
Yeah.
And we do it on a Tuesday when it's always... Because that's a night of the week, it's quiet, and it will be quiet anyway. So, and it's... billed as a comedy night. So,
and that's the thing, it's great because it works for everyone, because obviously the owner of the pub, that's a day of the week that normally is shite.
Yeah, the thing is, he's so behind it. That's the thing. Whether you whether you say what you want about him, he is so behind the comedy
passionate
night.
About that.
And that's what makes it work. Ultimately, I've had so many other gigs. I've talked about starting the Crown, and I've tried gigs in other places. I built up at one point before COVID. I had like 8 gigs on the go at one time. And slowly they've come back down again, or I've lost them. That one stay consistent and came back after COVID.
Look what I was doing in Southwater. Yeah. It worked so well for about 18 months, and then they weren't behind it enough, and it felt... And you saw that gig.
I've seen it.
It was a lovely gig.
It was a great gig, mate. It was a great gig. If they were so behind that, you could have kept that going and going and going.
That could have been... Like the way I saw that is your room on the Tuesday was sort of like the new material... the absolute one for new material. And then what I was doing is doing the pro comedy. So people were getting the best of both worlds. And between us, we could have really had something special in town for that. And I'm so disappointed in the management of that venue, because they just weren't
behind
it.
It
was like pulling teeth.
Yeah, they're just not behind it.
So hard.
I think a lot of it comes down to if it's a venue that does music as well, their passions in that, and they think the comedy can be treated the same way. And they realise it's not as easy a sell as you think. They think, the first one sells out. That's it. We just do nothing now. It will sell out. And it doesn't.
That's exactly what it was.
You've still got to keep promoting it every time.
It ran so well. For the first 6-7 months, it ran impeccably. And we were getting close to 100 people in there on a Monday night. And it was a tenner for the comedy. And we shut all down. We crammed 100 people in there. And it was a fucking brilliant night. And then the numbers started dwindling. And I was chasing them to you need to send the texts out, you need to send the emails out, you need to do this, you need to do that, and it just got less and less and less and less. And at the end of it, I was getting 20, 30 people in there, and it's such a shame, because if they'd have pushed it, I get a good night because I'm comparing it and I get a bit of cash out of it. I get 3 acts that are on the circuit are getting paid well, especially because it was a Monday night. They're getting paid nearly weekend money for a Monday night, which is unheard of. The audience are getting pro comedy for a tenner. And the venue are making not only on the ticket, because if they sell out, they're profiting because the fees weren't that high. And also they're making because they did food and drink on the bar. So it was win for me. It was win for the acts. It was win for the venue. It was win for the audience. But the management weren't behind it.
It all comes down to management. They blame you. They think that like it's your fault.
I was the dickhead. So I'm so pleased with you, and I'm going to name him John. It's so good that John
is behind it. He's
so behind it, and he's so passionate about it, and that is so refreshing to see. So it's great. So do get down to the Crown in Open Gates, and I know it's weird for a promoter to push another person's night, but I mean it is a great night. It's a great night, so do get down there. If you're watching this and you're from Telford or even the surrounding areas, it's well worth your 8 or 13 quid. Well worth it every day of the week.
But I've had all these other ones that have come and gone, and it's always this either bad management or the venue went. I did have another one you never did in Stone just before COVID killed
Why the fuck didn't you book me, mate?
And he was
why didn't you book me, Rog? What the fuck is wrong with you?
I can't remember before or after.
I'm joking with you, mate.
Just in the lead up to COVID, we had one in Stone, and again he was another John. He was so behind it; it would sell out month after month. It would never always had an audience, but he was about 65 years old, and then what happened is COVID hit. And he said, "I'm going to retire, mate. I'm not going to."
I thought you said he died.
No.
Fucking hell, oh, mate, I thought that's what I thought you were going to say then. He was so behind it, but then COVID hit and he died. Oh,
and then COVID, and he had to shut all his venue. And then he said, and then he messaged me and said, and he said, I won't be coming back after COVID because I've used this chance to sell the venue. Someone's bought it. And I did go and talk to the new venue owner. And he was a complete dickhead. Absolute dickhead. And and he did want to do one, and he was like, "Yeah, we want to do it, but we're going to move because it was it's like an open plan room with like a balcony above, and he had bands on as when he did bands, and he did it on a Tuesday, and it was 10 quid a ticket, and again it was a pro bill, like much like your but shit, wasn't I can't say I said out.
It doesn't matter.
It was much like that, but in Stone, and it was.
In fact, Albert Shed, if you're watching, and I'd love to pick it up again. It was a great night. If you're keen to run it like we did at the beginning, get in touch. Sorry.
But that one ended because I said he sold, and this new one came in, and I went to see him, and I said, and I got in touch with him and said, "Oh, I used to run the comedy night. Do you fancy doing that again?" Come and I went and have a chat with him. And when I got this, I want to move it upstairs, which is just not the right room for it. And he's like, "Well, we'll try it then. How much?" And I said the same fee I charged. Actually, I didn't. I said 50 quid more than I just charged the other guy. I said, "Okay." And he said, "Yeah, we'll do it." And then he named a date, and he said, "Yeah, we'll do it." Name a date, then okay, we'll try it. The next day on Facebook, because it's all open plan, by the way. This venue's massive and open plan with a balcony. The next day on Facebook, he'd announced they were going to do a Burns night with a live band on the same day. And I was like, so I messaged and said, "You know, you're going to do comedy." "Oh yeah, but you'll be upstairs." I was like, nah, forget it. And I just said, I withdraw my offer. I'm not going to run that. And he just said, "Well, you're unprofessional. This is really unprofessional. I didn't expect that." And I said, "Well, you can't. The noise bleed will come through." So, well, they're obviously not very good comics. So that killed that one.
Nightmare.
But that was the one I really regret, because that one, if COVID hadn't happened, that probably would have still been going, that one as well. But all the other ones, they were one reason or another, it just didn't last.
So which ones have you? Obviously, you got the Crown. Have you got the one in Bridge North? Is that the
that one's gone?
Oh, really? The one on the little corner by the bridge?
Yeah, that's gone again because again she wasn't managing it right.
Right, okay.
But they reckon she wasn't a very good manager of the venue.
I mean, to be honest, the room itself was difficult in terms
it wasn't
of
an
the
ideal
way
room.
it was set up.
Before COVID, again, that worked really well before
yeah.
COVID. And then what happened is that she left, and then the deputy manager took over as the venue man. She wanted to carry it on.
Right,
and then it was never the same when she'd gone.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
She'd sell it out every time the girl who used to run it, the lady. So that's
shame.
why that was a nice room as well, but it's a shame. And again, I'm past the stage of getting in touch with random venues saying, "Do you want a comedy night now?" Because they never work.
No. They've got to be interested. Yeah. And like, I'm the same. I've approached a few, and generally speaking, if I approach them, they're not interested. Yeah. If they approach me,
if they approach you, it might work.
Yeah.
I've got another one in Stafford now, and they approach me, which is why it's kind of working. We're free in.
Yeah.
First one was rammed. You couldn't move in there. Brilliant. Yeah. Everyone smashed it. Great night.
Yeah.
We've done another 2 since then. We've had 18 in, and it's not quite been as good. It's been okay, but it's not been quite as good. You did it ages ago. It's like it was an L-shaped room. It was in Stafford. It was the King's Arms. You've definitely emceed it for me once.
Because
they've asked for you again.
I know the room. Yeah. I had a really.
It's in a housing estate.
Yeah. I had the clip. I put a clip on.
Yes,
Andy White was closing. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, what is the landlord of that one? He's moved to the pub down the other end of the road.
Right, okay.
And he started up in his new pub, but it's a separate room now.
Right.
And it's him again, and a lot of the same clientele. Not all of, but quite a few of the same clientele come and watch it.
Well, if they want
and you've been requested, by the way.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah,
they've asked for you.
It.
Yeah. Again, I won't say how much on the camera, but the money's not amazing. Put it but it's on a Monday night.
So. Fine. Yeah, okay. It's local. It's on a Monday.
So they've asked for you. One of the girls there. So when's I won't say. Oh, the one with cerebral...
Which girl? Which girl?
One of the ladies. Well, girl, ladies.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, the one on crutches with cerebral palsy. Oh, yeah, Ricky. Yeah. When's he coming back?
Oh, wicked. That's lovely. That's lovely. We'll get something sorted.
So we'll get that sorted. But,
Rog, I'm ever so sorry, mate. We are going to have to cut that. We're looking at the time. We're going to have to cut it short. Are you going to... Yeah, because I'm really enjoying the chat. You happy to stick around and do a bit more for the Patreon?
Of course.
Excellent. Before we go, mate, where can they find you? Everything like that.
I'm on TikTok at Roger Swift Prop, and I'm on Twitter or X, whatever it's called now, at Roger Swift Puns. And if you just if you find the TikTok clips, if not, if you just YouTube me, you'll find some clips of me online with some very nasty comments under some of them.
It's definitely worth the read. And actually, I've said that about Roger splitting the rooms. He's a great comic. I'm a big fan. If you do see Roger's name or face on a poster, go and see him.
Can I say one thing?
Of course you can.
The TV channel Dave, they do the top jokes of the Fringe every year. I've been on it 3 times.
Yes, he has.
I have been on this 12, 7, 12.
There you go. So
I have to brag about
that. He's got his meme on
Dave. And I'm the only unknown one of all the people. All the other ones on there, they've always got agents or their industry back. I have nothing. Haven't got a following, a massive following. And I'm still on the list, the unknown on
Excellent, mate. Fucking fair play to you, brother.
I'm proud of that.
Excellent. You should be. Guys, if you made it this far, thanks ever so much for sticking around. Do me a favour, just press the little like button on this video. You don't actually realise how much it helps. It helps with the algorithm. It helps push it and all that. If you want to leave a comment, that helps even more. And obviously following the page helps us massively. We're going to go over to Patreon now. It's patreon.com/unstablepod. It's still just £1 a month for the first 1,000 members. We're going to do it for £1 a month, and that is for life. You get early access, you get extra content, and we have genuinely got big plans. And you're not going to miss £1 a month. I know it's tight for people, but £1 a month really will help support this podcast. We've finally got to the stage where, because of your donations, it's actually paying for itself now. It's paying for all the subscriptions that we need to post and stuff. So that just goes to show how much you're helping. So thank you very, very much. The more we get, the more we can do. So please jump over to Patreon now. We're going to go and do another little bit, and we will see you then. Have a great week. I'm not sure about this, but this might be the last episode before Christmas.
Yeah.
It could
Christmas
be.
It's a week Wednesday.
Is it? So this is going to be the episode. Guys, have a great Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy Christmas. And
it's Christmas.
Yeah, happy Christmas.
Reference one of my jokes to anyone who knows.
Yeah. Right, guys. See you later. All the best.
Bye.
Yeah.